Good evening, YouTube. It's Joe from Mega Newsreader. It is Saturday, February 18th, 2012. The article that we are reading this evening is from Infowars.com, and it is titled, "The Last World War of the Modern Age is Upon Us." This article was written by Saman Mohammadi. It is dated February 18th, 2012. It is no coincidence that the century of total war coincided with the century of central banking, Ron Paul and the Fed. Technology, it is clear, was a means of escaping from the confines of a reality, a way of liberating the imagination. Modris Eksteins. The historical consensus is that the 20th century really began in 1914 with the outbreak of the First World War. But the most important event that influenced the course of the 20th century was not the war. It was the secret creation of the Federal Reserve, a private central bank in the United States the year before the war began. By bringing into being history's biggest monetary monstrosity, the Woodrow Wilson administration committed a great betrayal against the American people, the Founding Fathers, the U.S. Constitution, and the American Revolution. For a just, democratic, and true political order to be created in America and the world, the Federal Reserve must be destroyed. It is because of the Fed's endless printing of money that America can fight endless wars against manufactured enemies such as Al-Qaeda, Iraq, and Iran. By taking away the bankers' power to print money and lend to governments at high interest, we will end the demonic age of modern world wars. The age of modern world wars began in 1913, and it has not ended yet. It encompasses World War I, World War II, and World War III. We must understand all three world wars as part of a continuous historical process that is building towards the same political goal: a global, financial, political, and technocratic dictatorship. The legacy of modern world wars and total warfare includes genocide, ethnic cleansing, nuclear warfare, biological warfare, chemical warfare, apocalyptic violence, totalitarian propaganda, and mass terror. The biggest victims of this violent global political transformation are innocent civilians. This was true in Europe in the 1940s, and it is true today in the Middle East. Independent journalist Pepe Escobar helped shed light on the true situation in Syria on Anti-War Radio with Scott Horton on February 16, 2012. Escobar said, "What we have here is the government against an armed insurrection, and in the middle we have that entity, the Syrian people, Syrian civilians who are caught in the crossfire. So, in the name of saving the Syrian people and bringing them freedom, the fascist dictatorships of NATO, Saudi Arabia, the United States, Britain, and Israel are destroying the Syrian people and sending them to their doom. Syria is a victim. Iraq is a victim. Afghanistan is a victim. Palestinians are victims. They are victims of totalitarian terrorism by the globalists and Zionists. America was originally the biggest victor of the long process of financial global conquest that began in 1913. But it is now probably the biggest victim because it is funding World War III in the Middle East, and her sons are being sacrificed for absolutely no good reason. America itself is being sacrificed and ruined. Make no mistake about it. Her brave and honorable people have been used to secure the world for the financial hijackers and evil serpents who captured America in 1913 and overturned the U.S. Constitution. The period between 1913 and 2013 is the era of the Great World Wars, the long death of the nation-state, and the birth of a global dictatorship. In this dark period of human history, mankind has witnessed the violent forces of treason walk in the bright light of day, while the silent voices of reason creep through the wilderness in the dark of night. Ron Paul is the biggest voice to emerge out of this wilderness. He is a newborn founding father with the credibility of a moral and political giant. Ron Paul can change some things, but not everything. He has changed the minds of the young. That's enough. A new American political revolution can lead to a positive transformation of the world and the preservation of true freedom. But it's too late to save the nation-state. The death of the nation-state has been a painful, prolonged, and agonizing affair. It is death by the law of historical inevitability. The global economic, technological, and cultural revolution will culminate in the first ever global political revolution. But the question is, what kind of revolution will this be? The globalist terrorists in Washington and London want a total revolution that is fascist and technocratic in character, which means they want to wipe out the valuable legal documents of Western civilization, such as the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights. This cannot be allowed. America's great heritage must be preserved. The West must be rejuvenated and reawakened, not sacrificed and destroyed. If this means war, then war it is. We will win the battle for freedom, truth, and justice if we realize that we are in a war for our survival and existence and act accordingly. At bottom, it is a war for historical memory. How will we remember the American Founding Fathers? The New York Times and Time magazine want us to remember them as villains and slave owners. I want to remember them as they truly were, heroes and sages. I read Jefferson, and I recognize one of humanity's greatest political saints. He was not perfect, but no one is. If the globalist destroyers think that they can destroy the Bill of Rights and the heroic legacy of the American Founding Fathers, then they are mistaken. They can't erase our memories of great men, great deeds, and great words. In our age, we are seeing the rebirth of history and truth and an end to directed history, a term coined by the editors of the Daily Bell. On January 25, 2012, they wrote, "This is how directed history works in our view. Over and over, the top elites fund various revolutionary entities and then, via war or perhaps diplomatic tension, create the outcomes that they seek. It looks logical to an observer, especially one who is separated from the actual event by years or decades. Ending directed history means ending directed memory. Historian and author Michael Parenti has said, "The powers that be not only tried to control events, but they tried to control our memory and understanding of these events, which is part of controlling the events themselves." Our memories of historical events such as the 9/11 attacks, the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Great Depression, and the covert creation of the privately owned Federal Reserve monster must be reconfigured and readjusted to the historical reality and historical truth. If our memories of traumatic and important events are false and politically engineered, then that makes us nothing more than slaves. But we are not slaves of totalitarian states. We are all the children of God. As the great Iranian poet Sadi wrote, "The sons of Adam are limbs of each other, having been created of one essence."